What is up, y'all? Welcome back to Chosen Price Chats. I'm joined here today with Gym Leader Taylor. How are you today, man?
I'm doing wonderful, man. How are you doing?
I'm great. I'm great. I'm happy. Things got a little pushback, but I'm happy we got this to work out. I'm excited to
Yeah.
do this.
No, it worked out great. So,
Awesome, awesome. So yeah, just gonna get right into it. I always like to ask. Everyone has an awesome collection. What do you do for work to help you, get your collection and get your cards and stuff like that?
yeah. It's transitioned a lot over the last couple of years.
Hmm.
This kind of goes into like where I got my name and stuff, but when I first started collecting again, which was like 2020, I think, somewhere like the beginning, right around there, I was working in the gym. And so
Nice.
I guess that was my creative way. I was like, you know what? I feel like a gym leader. Like, I think that's gonna
Yeah.
be username. And so that's what I was doing. I was personal training, and then when the world kind of went on pause for a while there, I wasn't able to work. And I started doing more like online personal training and stuff.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, like part time, just like running this gym, being a trainer. And then the collecting side got, more and more involved. And I just started like grading cards, collecting, and I actually found a box of like, I collect like more like niche stuff, like unlimited, like legend and stuff. And at the time, like when I was doing that, that was like really kind of weird. Like people were like, where do you even find these and stuff? And I went in my closet and I had a box of them, and I was like, "Oh no way! I can't believe I kept these." Like, because I this was back from like 2015, if we rewind even more. But anyway, so I found those, and it really like jump started me like collecting again. And so I guess fast forward, I started grading, I started selling, just collecting, and now I'm at the point where, I do like weekly auctions on eBay, and I
Yeah.
do online personal training. So it's kind of like 50-50 now compared to where it used to be more like training and just collection, for fun. And now I just do the training, even a little less, I'd say, than like I do with like the weekly auctions and selling Pokemon cards. So it's kind of transitioned into a full time almost, gig of just selling cards and like doing what I love, which I love personal training too, but it's hard to beat Pokemon. Like,
Yeah, I mean, come on. That's fantastic. I love that. That's incredible. I mean, personally, that's actually something I'm working towards as well. I started eBay a little bit ago, but yeah, that's awesome to hear, and I love hearing stuff like that because it's something we grew up as kids and never expect to make a living out of it. So
oh
awesome.
yeah, yeah, totally. And I mean, everyone is always just floored. Like older people, my parents, like almost even people our age, who maybe aren't like into it or whatever. Like you tell them, like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, like I sell cards, like I collect, like you should check these out, and they're like, what? Like that's a thing? And you're like, you
Yeah.
wouldn't believe how big of a thing it is.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I think yeah, when I first started telling my parents that, they're like, those things you played with as a kid? And I was like, those are the ones. That's
I love
yeah.
that. I know when I started, like, I was telling my wife, it was around like 2021 or whatever, and I was like, I think I'm gonna, kind of dive a little more into like Pokemon and selling and stuff. And she was like, oh my gosh, she was so worried. She's like, what are we gonna do for money? What? And I was like, no, it's gonna work
Yeah.
out, I swear.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, that's too good. Yeah, I'm glad it has. That's awesome. That's
Thank
super
you.
awesome to hear.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I guess outside of collecting and selling cards and doing your personal training, what other hobbies do you have? What else do you get into in life?
Yeah, a big thing for me is cars. I'm a car guy. I grew up, my dad was a hot rodder. He was always building like hot
Wow.
rods, and that was super fun. So I grew up at car shows, and that's another thing is like right now I have like three different, like two are projects and one's like a newer car, but and that's a spendy hobby itself. That one is Sometimes I'm even like, oh man, I don't know, but no, so I'm just a big car lover. I love car shows, going and hanging out. We have like a cars and coffee in my area every Saturday. And so even if I'm not putting a car in, just going and hanging out with car people and talking cars too. So that's pretty fun.
That's awesome. Yeah, gotta love it.
Thanks.
So, oh yeah, I don't know too much about cards honestly, but I know you know Code Card. I'm sure y'all could talk for hours. That's cool.
Oh yeah, yeah. The details and stuff. It's just like I feel like with Pokemon. You come in and you're like, oh, this like limited, 2000 release was like a trophy card. And like it's the same thing with cars. Sometimes you go and you're like, oh yeah, this Honda in 1990, it only came with these options in Japan. And like
Yeah,
it's like the same thing, I swear. And so I just love that aspect of it.
yeah, that's awesome. So, I feel like with the gym and working out and stuff, there's kind of a lot of discipline involved. Do you feel like there's some crossover with the discipline when it comes to like, collecting and kind of basically running a business at this point?
Oh, yeah, I mean, totally. Cause yeah, I mean, with working out, you have to like build better habits. You have to teach yourself that like, this is a thing that you got to do and you're gonna do it forever. Basically, it's like, if you want it to be sustainable and work, you have to keep going. You have to put your energy into that and be there for it every day. And it's the same way, yeah, like with Pokemon. And it's like anything, if especially if you're like passionate about it, I feel like it like draws you to it. You don't have to put so much effort into like, oh, I gotta collect cards today. Like
Yeah.
I gotta work out today. Like, for me, I love it. And like with the personal training side, a lot of it was like the mental part of it that it's like I need that in my day to day to like feel clear, to feel good, like just to overall, like feel happy. Same with Pokemon too, like it's something that brings a lot of happiness. It's so fun. And that's what I try to do with like working out too. So I think they definitely go hand in hand where it's like, okay, I got to get this work in today, like especially if you're working for yourself, you're like, I'm holding myself accountable because if I don't do it, it's not getting done. And same with working out. It's like, well, I can't have someone else work out for me and I get the benefits. That I'm sure
Yeah.
everyone would love that. But
Yeah.
but yeah, so it keeps you committed, consistent, and if you want to see results, you have to just keep doing it, and just keep progressing. And yeah, I mean, find a way to make it fun too. You don't want to do something that's like burning you out and doesn't feel good. So in both ways, if you're running a business, try to have fun with it, try new things. Same with working out. That's what I like to do. And for my clients, like have fun with it. What do you like to do? What don't you like to do? We got to mix it up so we can keep it going, make it sustainable.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that, I feel like getting worn out by stuff mentally is, a big part of it. So yeah, finding something that isn't going to do that is huge. Yeah.
Totally, totally. Yeah, the burnout in anything is just not fun. Like you got to find that balance and have that time for yourself so you can just be like, all right, I got to recover and like figure out how I'm gonna do this so I don't have to feel that burnout. Because that, yeah, I know from experience that is one of my least favorite things.
Oh yeah. So I guess where did your joy with like, Pokemon and collecting start?
Oh man. Before I get into it, is my heater kicked on? Can you hear it or is it okay?
Yeah, I can hear it a little bit, but should be able to honestly cancel the noise out just a little in the background.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, so I mean the collecting that was like Pokemon Red and Blue, when those came out, I mean, some of my earliest memories even are just like going and buying those games and playing them nonstop, just like beating them every different way you could. I remember you could get like the Game Shark. I don't know if you remember
Oh
back
yeah.
then. Yeah, and you
Yeah.
could put in just get like any Pokemon to show up and stuff. Like I remember that was so fun because there's a bunch of Pokemon I had like never seen before at that point. it'd be like a Kabutops or something, and I was like, "What? Oh," just like freaking out. Um, but it really, I think, was with the games, and then that got me into the cards. I think those went like hand in hand too. You got the game, and then you're like, I want to get the cards, or maybe like vice versa. You got some cards, and you're like, oh, I
Oh
want to get
yeah.
the game. Um, and I was fortunate enough, too, that like my parents were like really cool with that, and they're like, all right, like for a birthday present, I could get like one of the games or something. And
Heck yeah.
so it was like maybe I got the Game Boy at Christmas, and then when my birthday came up a couple months later, they're like, "All right, you can get Pokemon, whatever was out." So it was really cool, and that way I was able to like play the games, and then I just became totally obsessed from there. As a kid, I just remember everything I had was like Pokemon. I had boxes of cards. My dad hated it. He's like, "What are you doing with all this crap?" But
Oh
like
yeah.
he didn't understand
It,
it, but
yeah. Absolutely. That's awesome. So, I guess was there a point where you kind of stopped and broke off as a kid, or was it pretty continuous?
no, there actually was. I remember, uh, I want to say I was like maybe 12 or 13. And for some reason, I don't know. I think it was just at the time, it was one of those things where it's like, I think even pressure from other kids and stuff, where it's like, what are you watching cartoons still and playing games? It was just kind of that weird time where people were like, we're growing up or whatever that was. And so
For
I
sure.
remember, yeah, like, because I remember like being really sad. I was like watching Samurai Jack and stuff, and I was like, you mean I can't watch this anymore? Like,
Oh,
oh, so
yeah.
there definitely was like that pressure where I was like, all right, and then I kind of quit for quite a few years. Um I want to say, and I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 years. Um but I remember 2014, uh I want to say, man, I was somewhere like younger 20s. I'm 31 now. Um But so whoever can do math and stuff, I'm not the best with it, but it was somewhere around there where I was on eBay, and I can't even remember what I was looking for, but Japanese fossil Mew card popped up, and
Oh
like
yeah.
that was the hollow, like the purple, the hollow one.
Yeah.
Um, and that was my card, like as a kid, that like really was like, this is my like the best card ever. And I've told people the story, but when I was younger, I had one of like in my small town, like the only Japanese Pokemon card, and it was that Mew card. And being young,
Wow.
we didn't like know any better, so we thought it was like one of the only ones in the world. We're like, this is like one of like the rarest card ever. And I remember like
Yeah.
kids I didn't even know would come over, and we'd all like circle around it, and I'd show them. They were like, "Oh my gosh!"
Yeah. That's
and
awesome.
and so I saw that, I believe, yeah, 2014. I saw it on eBay, and by this point, I was like making money, I had a job and stuff, and I was like, I should buy that. That's kind of fun. Like I had the memories there. And so I bought it, and from there, again, that kind of like it just started collections again, where I just started collecting. And I wasn't collecting graded back then, but it was more so just like binder stuff
Sure.
that I could. And I did that for 14, 15, I want to say 16, maybe 3, around years. And then I went to college for a bit, and that's where like I became a personal trainer and stuff. And that's
Hmm.
when my focus was more on school and work, and I wasn't collecting as much.
Yeah.
Um, and I actually sold like my entire collection that I had to go to school. Like at the time I had like a full no rarity set.
Oh my gosh.
I had one of every booster pack in Japanese, from base set all the way through, like I don't know where we were at that point, maybe like XY Premium Champions pack, I think, somewhere around there.
Sure.
One of each, and I mean, I'm not even kidding. I think I sold the full no rarity set for like $1,000, and I sold the full booster pack set. It was like 50 sealed booster packs for like $1,000. You know, because just prices back then weren't as crazy, but I was like, I need money to go to school. So I was
Yeah,
like, I guess this is the way to do it. Little did I know what it would be, in future years, but it got me where I
yeah,
needed to be. Um, but yeah, and so then going to like when I found that box of like the cards that I did keep were the unlimited legend cards because I just really love those and I still do. Um, but then I found those in my closet and it just reignited it, and I've been collecting ever since. And that was early 2020, and I'm not stopping this time. Now it's just a never. This is a life thing.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's pretty incredible. Like, I guess I'm not too knowledgeable on Japanese, but were like the unlimiteds were more or less printed back then, right? For that era.
Yeah, yeah. So for some of them, like some of the sets, I think they're pretty close, maybe like 50-50, or maybe,
Hmm.
like it's not like super, super rare on some sets. I know E series, they're like a little more rare for the unlimited compared to the first edition.
Sure.
Um, but sets like the Legend set, and I spent a lot of time on like the E4 forums and stuff, and I know like a lot of other people helped. We've gathered all this information. And I could be a lot better about going on those forums and helping out. I'm so bad with like adding stuff. So I got to give a big shout
Yeah.
out, everyone on there who was like helped with all that info. Um, but yeah, like the legend sets, there's just like such a limited print run compared to the first edition, and it was so limited for a long time. Like no matter what we looked into, we couldn't find information on it. We're like, we don't even know where these come from, like where, and over the years it's like we found that there was like an actual print run and stuff. I mean, boxes have been found and stuff, but there's so few of them. It's like the print run is just so limited compared to that. And so I think it goes to the rarity and the excitement of it, like where did these come from? Like there's just something about
Yeah.
that. Some of the sets for me personally that I'm just like, man, these are so cool.
Yeah. So I guess was were you like digging on E4 and you found out like, oh, these unlimited sets are a little harder to come by, and then you started to, is that something you started to pursue afterwards, or did you have the unlimited and then find out that they were just a little more rare?
I think I bought, I believe it was the Celebi from Clash at the Summit from L3. Um, it's like the Prime one.
Yeah.
And I had that and it was unlimited. And I was like, oh, this is kind of weird, Like I was looking through all the other cards and they were all first edition and I didn't think anything of it for a while. And then I think if I remember right, I saw a post on E4 where somebody was like, I want to say Voltorbs and Electrodes, like they were collecting those, and they were like, the only one I can't find is like the Unlimited Legend. And then I was like, oh, like weird. That's like, I didn't have the Electrode, but I had the Celebi, and I was like, oh, okay. And I was like, maybe they're more rare. And so I started like digging into it, and I mean, yeah, you couldn't find like any of them. And then I went on there and we were talking about them, and then that collector was like, "Oh yeah, they must be super rare because I've been looking for years." And it's like being a species collector, like people couldn't find that set, the L2, L3 in
Oh,
unlimited.
wow.
And so then yeah, it just became this like cool thing where I was like, oh nice, I want to like hunt these down. And I was on eBay, and like I think eBay was my main source back then of like finding cards. But over the years I've reached out to Japanese collectors like in Japan, Japanese auctions, stuff like that, and I've been able to find a lot more. And yeah, it's super cool. I mean, I'm still to this day trying to complete from like 2014, 15, the full, because there was like a reverse set too. And I mean,
Yeah, I just found out about those like maybe a
nice.
week ago. Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah, yeah. So and it keeps me going like forever. It's like one of those things where I'm like, man, this is gonna take me 20 years to complete. So, and I'm cool with that because I'm like, nice,
For sure.
it's a fun goal.
Yeah, that's super cool. That's awesome. So,
Thanks.
what about like the no rarity? Like, was that just something where you were like, oh, this is a cool alternate version of base set. I'm gonna collect this kind of, or?
Yeah, it was exactly like that for like the unlimiteds. I was like, "Oh, this is like the unlimited, Japanese base set." So, yeah, exactly that way of being like, "This is really cool." And I just had my little binder and I honestly think I got to get over it cuz part of me is like a little bitter for selling that and then coming
Yeah,
back into it and being like, "Why?"
yeah,
So I haven't pursued that set again. But also I think it's not as interesting to me personally as like the Legend set. I know the like value and stuff is more there for that, but I'm not as interested in like the value. It's more of like kind of the chase and the hunt for some of those when they're really rare, like for me. So I don't know. Also the value, probably a little bit if I had all the money in the world, then but then it makes it a little easy too. I could probably track them
for
down.
sure. Yeah. So, I like I said, I just kind of learned about these. I wish I could think about whose page I stumbled upon the reverse prime cards on, but would you mind like elaborating a little bit? Are those actual set cards or where do the reverse primes come from?
Yeah, yeah. So the reverse, I believe you got a reverse in every pack of the legend sets. So you'd get one, but being that the packs are so hard to find, I mean, I know only a handful of people who have them. I think I've seen maybe like six, seven packs, including my own, that are like sealed, unlimited legend
Wow.
packs over the last 5 years. Um, and that's like searching every day. Some of us too, we'd be everywhere, eyes everywhere in the market, and still they aren't coming up. And so if you look at it from that view too, it's like, how in the world are you going to complete? I don't know. I want to say there were like 80 some cards in the set, or something. It's like, so you'd have to find every single variant, you're finding even the commons, you got a common unlimited card, but then you have the common mirror of it or reverse foil of it too. And so then you got to like pair them up. And I know some people are probably even further along than I am with the reverses at this point. I haven't been
Hmm.
as diligent as I once was, but regardless, it's cool to see. If I do it, if someone else does it, I don't care. It's super cool to see. So
Yeah, yeah. Shoot. Yeah, I'm gonna have to find it because this person gave a breakdown in the caption that was really good about kind of how rare these cards were and like
nice.
they almost gave like an estimate of how many of each reverse was printed based on it and it's just crazy. Yeah, that's crazy. It's an awesome
Yeah.
goal.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I'm sure the percentage like is so low, so that's super cool. Yeah, I don't know if I came across that, but that'd be cool to find out who knew that too.
Yeah, I'll have to look after this and shoot you a message or something.
Nice. Yeah, that
But
sounds good.
yeah. But so I guess was it the Mew that you had as a kid that's made you basically a Japanese exclusive collector to this point?
I think it was. I think that like when I was a kid, the special feeling of thinking like, oh my gosh, I have like one of the rarest, most unique things ever. And it's so funny to
Yeah.
come to find out like, oh no, that was just a regular fossil Japanese, but
Yeah.
the feeling I still like I'll always know that feeling, and I think that comes in with every Japanese like cool card that I get that I've always wanted, whether it's like a Gyarados or whatever, like a super, like I got like recently like a Mew trophy card, like a Battle Festa one, and that's like a pretty intense, like trophy card. And for me it's like the same
Yeah.
feeling, it's just like, oh my gosh, this is so cool to own this. And so it really is. I had English cards when I was younger, but nothing grabs me like the like awe of the Japanese cards. And I always just thought the colors, the hollow, there's something about it that I just really enjoy. Not to say the English cards are bad at all. But it's just my taste, I guess, is jumping in on the Japanese side.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I think I can tell, from your shirt and just our brief conversation, but as you were growing up and other stuff, did you have like any other Japanese media franchises you were into?
Oh man, yeah. One of the biggest ones I remember, Inuyasha as a kid was always
Oh,
like
yeah.
just one of the best. Like that classic. I love that there's so many people out there that have that memory of like waking up at 3 a.m. to the outro where like Sesshomaru's standing on the rock and stuff.
Oh
Like
my gosh.
so
Yeah.
classic. But yeah, I remember I had Netflix back when it was like just the DVDs. They'd send you like 3 DVDs
Oh
in the
my
mail.
gosh. Yeah.
And that was
Yeah.
how I got introduced to a bunch of different anime. Like I would go on there and just be like, "Oh, what is this?" And I would just randomly send like Naruto and just random like even other ones that I don't even remember the name, but really cool like 90s anime. And I'd just get them from Netflix because they had like such a weird catalog of like rare stuff that I just couldn't find anywhere else. And that got me more and more into anime too, where I was just watching all these cool old animes. I think like Outlaw Star was one, and Toonami, you know. Toonami
Yeah.
has always just played a huge part. I mean, I'd run home from school every day, catch the end of Sailor Moon, and then right into DBZ. Like, and that
Oh
was
my
my like
gosh.
every day. I was like, I have to be home for DBZ. I would just be sprinting home, like DBZ.
That's incredible. What do you think what do you think drew you personally towards like anime and more Japanese media franchises compared to I guess Western or American ones?
um, you know, I think when I was younger, it kind of was like 50-50 because like I loved like
Okay.
Network, Powerpuff Girls, like
Yeah.
Samurai Jack, like you talked about Ed, Ed and
Yep.
Eddie, Courage the Cowardly Dog,
Heck
a
yeah.
lot of Cartoon Network stuff. There's a lot of great Nickelodeon stuff I liked. So anything that was like cartoons, creatures, monsters. I mean, because I was a huge fan of Digimon, Duel Masters, Yu-Gi-Oh. So I loved all of those too, and I was like huge into drawing when I was younger, and so I'd like
Nice.
print out the card templates for each game, and then I'd just draw like it would be blank where the monster was, and then I'd just create my own, and my friends and I would like create our own, and we had like stacks. I mean, just stacks of art, of like these different monsters that we would draw and stuff. So it's
Hmm.
I don't know. I think 50-50 on that, but as I get older, I think there's just so much in the world of anime. Yeah, like Spy Family. Like there's so much more like new stuff where I feel like I don't know, Cartoon Network I don't feel like has the same draw that it used to
For sure.
anyway. So, and maybe it's just the nostalgia and stuff, but I feel like there's so many new anime and shows and games and stuff that are just so cool. It's like you can just continuously keep building on your list of what you want to watch and stuff. So,
Oh yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I'd have to agree with the Cartoon Network is just not the same, at least to me. I don't know if it's the nostalgia or what, but yeah,
yeah.
I couldn't agree more with that.
Mhm.
So So I guess what is obviously Yu-Gi-Oh, Digimon, they have their own games or card games attached to them. What has kind of made you at least to my knowledge just stick with Pokemon through this, the Pokemon cards?
Yeah. I've thought about that because I did used to collect all of them. And I think it's just the love for Pokemon is just a little more where I'm like,
Yeah,
if I'm gonna invest time and money into it, I just really wanted to do that and focus on one. And I was like, if I feel like branching out eventually, I will. And I kind of did for a little bit with like grading games. Like I graded a couple Digimon games that are in my collection, some Mario games, Castlevania. That was always a cool one growing up.
oh wow. Yeah.
So I got a couple of those, but as far as like card games, I love Pokemon. That's always been the biggest one too. Like if you saw my binders as a kid, it was like this thick Pokemon, and then there's a couple pages. Like, I had a couple Yu-Gi-Oh tins and like a couple Digimon, but it was more so I was collecting like the toys and the games, I think, for those. And then for Pokemon, it was always more so the card game.
Oh, for sure, for sure. I gotta ask, did you have any of like the Digivolving figures from Digimon? Those were like some of my favorite toys as a kid. Those were
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah, I used to have a bunch of them and like Yu-Gi-Oh ones and I had the small like Pokemon ones. Like I remember I had a little Zapdos, Articuno and Moltres. And my buddy and I, it was so fun. When we were younger, we used to set all of them up in like these different levels and stuff. And so
Uh,
you'd like travel and like you'd battle. It'd be like in my bedroom, and you'd travel and battle like each station. And then you could be
oh
like
yeah.
whoever you wanted. If you wanted to be, like Agumon or whatever, and like Digivolve, as you progressed or whatever. But and it was based on Yu-Gi-Oh! Like we called it Toon World. And so like he'd come
Yeah.
over and we'd be like, let's play Toon World, and we'd set it up, and like you'd have to fight like Jinzo at the end or something. He was like the boss.
Yeah.
It was cool.
That's hilarious. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome, dude. So, I was looking through your page a little bit, and I just saw recently you added the 500 point EV to your collection, and
Yeah.
I think that's to my knowledge a Japanese exclusive art. Um,
hmm
do you have like what is your favorite Japanese exclusive art, or some of your favorites that never got to the English printer?
Man, that's a good question. The Eevee's definitely up there. Because it's just so cute. I just love it. Doing his
Yeah,
little wink, like it's just a good card. And it's
for
always,
sure.
even from a long time ago, it was one of those that I was like, man, one day it'd be awesome to like get one of those, just to have it and just to see it in person. So recently, like grading that was like super fun, and I was like, finally, the day is here. And I still would love to grade a 10 eventually, just because I think it's kind of fun to just like see how, mint you can find a card from that long ago. Um, but man, for exclusive arts, let's see, off the top of my head, I'm like looking at my case right now. I'm like, let's see. Did the
Yeah,
shiny Mew from Koro Koro? I really
oh,
like that one. I think that's a huge, fan favorite for sure.
for sure.
Um, I actually have a Jigglypuff promo. Man, I can't think where it is, or I'd grab it, but it's somewhere, and it's like Jigglypuff like running on like a tropical island, and it's like a hollow promo.
Oh
And
yeah, yeah,
I really like that one too. I think sometimes just like the quirkiness and stuff that Japan brings to like some of the artwork, and maybe I don't know, they would just like left it out for English, or even like the band stuff, like the Gengar, and they took like the background out. I think it was like the headstone
yeah,
stuff. Like I think it's
yeah.
kind of cool, like to see the different versions and like be like, oh, nice, cool, like, and that there is even multiple versions.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's so interesting to me. Like that America couldn't handle a graveyard, or
Yeah, some
or
of the stuff.
yeah,
Yeah, some of
like
the
you
stuff
you put
is really weird.
yeah, like the Magmortar, just the aiming, it's like hand, and, and that one got banned. That's so funny.
Yeah, I know. I had a lot of people that are like, "You think that'd be the American version?" And I was like, "Yeah, you're not wrong."
Yeah, right. Oh my gosh. Yeah,
uh,
that's so funny. But yeah, so also you notice you collect a lot of stuff, besides just cards. I think I've seen telephone cards, and one of the things that's pretty notable to me is like pencil boards. Like
yeah,
what started you down grabbing pencil boards?
yeah. So speaking of exclusive art, yeah, this is good because not like TCG, I guess, but um, I just started. I remember I used to a couple years ago. I was buying they're like bandanas with like really cool like Japanese like art from back in the day. And I had
Oh,
this dude who
sweet.
would always come in my DMs and like make fun of me. He's like, "You buying more of those napkins and stuff?" And I always thought it was hilarious. But so I guess I've always like just been drawn towards anything that has like that cool art on it, whether it's like the notebook like that I've found, or stickers, or anything kind of. But I didn't even know about the pencil boards until maybe like last year sometime,
Hmm.
and I found out about them, and I was kind of like reading on some Japanese blog, and I was reading, and they were like, oh yeah, like you could use those in school and like put your paper on it and like use them. And I was just like, that's so cool. Like, especially I was like, if I was a kid and I could bring those to school and show them off and be like,
Yeah.
I'm doing my homework, but check out this. Like,
Oh,
it,
yeah. That's
yeah.
awesome.
And so I love that. And then I was like, oh, these are cool. And I started looking into them and I started realizing how much cool art was on them. Like all this exclusive, like these battle scenes with like Blastoise and Venusaur and stuff. And I was like, how did I never know about these? And I was like, I got some, and some of them were like a little like flimsy, and I was like, oh man, I want to like display this somehow. And I was like kind of setting them up and stuff, and they'd like fall, and I couldn't find a good way. And then I came across like an auction on PWCC where somebody had graded one. And I was like, "Oh, no way. Like
Mm.
you can grade these." And so I was like, "I'm going to try that, just for the heck of it." And so that as everything just spiraled and now I just have been like finding them from collections and stuff and grading them because I absolutely love them. Like I still have yet to get frames made, but I want to get some frames and like hang them up on my walls and stuff so I can really display the ones like that I love. And then a lot of like the doubles and stuff, then I'm just like, well, I'm gonna send these out into the market, because I know a lot of other people love them, and it's just really cool to like be able to see other people get these and collect them and stuff too. Because I know how happy I was when I was like, oh, you can get these and grade them and display them. So yeah, I don't know. I love the art though. That's the main thing on them is just like, and it's even bigger. It's like it's great. It's like a huge like paper sized art.
Yeah, they're absolutely beautiful display pieces. And, it's all art I've never seen, basically. It's not like they just take TCG cards and throw them on there or something. It's all unique from what I've seen. It's really cool. Super
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, that's what I love too. Yeah.
Yeah. But, speaking of like sending stuff into the market, like how do you feel about selling? Like what does selling Pokemon cards and products like mean to you?
Yeah. When I started, I think it was definitely a way to like help build my own collection, And
Hmm.
so, and I still do to this day. There's a lot of times where I like have to sell a card that I really love, but it's in pursuit of this other card that I really love that I don't own. So, what if I gave somebody else the opportunity to own this one and then I get the opportunity to own the other one that I want? And so a lot of it was kind of like a trading system in that way, where it's like
Hmm.
sell this one so I can get this one. Um, and also it became just like so fun because I started like grading more. My collection got bigger, but I was also able to like sell more, and people were like, "Oh, thank you," like super happy and like excited about it. And that just got me pumped because I was like, "Oh, nice!" Like, because sometimes I don't know. I remember when I started, I was very hesitant to like grade stuff. I didn't understand the process. I was worried about it. And I was like, I don't know, like I'm going to take cards I love and just put them in a box and send them across the country. Like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so a lot of it started with like being like, okay, well, I'm going to try it and see how it goes. And I was super nervous at first. Like those first couple months, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm sending this card like, to be graded. Like what am I doing?" But eventually it became easier and easier and uh it kind of was a way where I was like it's cool that I can do this and then for people who don't necessarily want to or whatever, I know there's like services where they could send them and grade them, but also if they just wanted to buy them, I was like this is really cool that I can be an outlet, kind of like a little shop for people to get like Japanese cards and stuff. So it really started from there and still to this day, like with the phone cards and the pencil boards, like sometimes nobody knows what the market is for them. They're like, well, I don't know, how much to pay or what to ask or whatever. And so sometimes I just go out on a limb and I'm like, let's just throw them on eBay, 99 cents. Let's see what people want, think that they're worth or whatever. And that's kind of fun too, because then you're like, you know, what it goes for $4, it goes for 400 or somewhere in between. But, it's kind of fun because to me anyways, I get in a lot of bidding wars and there's something fun about it where you're like, oh man, I want this. Like, how bad do you want this? And
Yeah,
so, to throw some cool stuff out there too and just have people in the hobby be like, this is, the bidding is going to dictate what it's worth. And I think it keeps like the hobby healthy in terms of like value and stuff because I think you can be a collector and a seller at the same time. I mean, in all sales, as long as you're not like doing the shilling or the scamming and all that crap, you're just helping the hobby. I mean, we all love it. It's kind of like our own little economy, I feel like, like and we get to
absolutely.
dictate. Yeah, and like I think it's cool. We get to dictate like what things are worth. We're like, well, you know what? I have this amount. I'm willing to pay that for this card or whatever it is, and I think it's kind of exciting, so
Dude, absolutely. That is a chosen price. I got at the bottom. That's the namesake because I do all auctions because, you should choose the price. If that's what you're willing to pay for it, that's, like you said, we kind of dictate the market and I really love that. Yeah.
cool. I love that. Nice, nice. Yeah, now I'm seeing that. I'm like, oh, cool.
Yeah, yeah. So that's so funny. I remember one of the times I feel like you always deal with some crazy people when you're selling. What do you think about people who reach out and you're just like, what do you do when you're driving down the price of my, my what is it? Shoot, I can't think of I forgot what kind of card it was, but they were like, you're driving down the market of this card or that card, and it's like, oh
Yeah.
man.
Dude, it's pretty rare, but when I get those, I just think it's so funny because I'm like, those people are usually outing themselves as like probably a
Yeah.
shill or somebody like trying to manipulate the market. And you're like, you're just outing yourself for like shady practices. Like, what are you
Oh my
doing?
gosh.
Which
Yeah.
is great. I mean, the more people you can bring to the light of that, it's like, well, we don't want to have to deal with that anyway. Um, and I just think that's like the nature of it. Sometimes you buy a card and maybe it's not worth as much. Maybe it drops $100, $200, and it's like, well, do you like the card? Because you can be happy with it and be like, yeah, maybe I paid a little more, but it's in my collection. I like it. Who cares? But I think if you go into it with a mentality of like just so money hungry, it's going to be so hard for you because it's like, where's the passion in it? Like, things are going to go up, things are going to go down. You're going to probably have a bad time. Like, sometimes if you can just sit back, laugh, be like, hey, I overspent a little bit, but who cares? It sits in my display case and I like it. I see it every day. That's value right there to me. Like I get to come home and see my Mew. Like, heck yeah,
Yeah.
maybe I overpaid. I don't care. I love that thing.
Dude,
But
yeah, absolutely.
yeah, so for the people that message that, that's why I like to like kind of post them on Instagram and stuff because we all just get a laugh about it. Like, what is this person thinking? Like
Seriously. Oh, yeah, that's hilarious. So, I guess you do a lot of you've done a lot of grading, and it seems to me that you've used basically all of the big three companies. What is
Mhm.
your just, I guess, favorite company to use just for any reason, I suppose?
Yeah. Let's see. When I first started, because PSA was so backed up, I actually started with CGC. Uh,
Hmm.
and I know a lot has like changed over the years for CGC, but I really do appreciate like them listening and like trying to improve on, what they do with their grading and stuff. And they were always ones that were like, I think to this day, I still don't even think PSA has ever like shouted me out. And like CGC does every single time I post about them. So I do like that aspect of it where they're like a little more involved. And that's it isn't like a big deal, but I just look at that. Sometimes that's like a factor for some people. So I'd say CGC is a little more like involved in that. Whether you like the grading scale or not, I think all that comes down to like preference, what you want to collect, what you look for when you're getting a card too, I think. Um
Hmm.
but I think overall, I use PSA the most. I think the submission process is the easiest, in my opinion. I just really like it. Um, and And for a while, I think in terms of like value, it was there too, where it's like, oh, there's a lot of value in PSA. So, if you do get a really good submission, you could probably, make some good money. Um, and I think that's always good because 95% of that goes back into Pokemon for me personally anyways. So, and I think it does with a lot of people. So if people get upset with like money in the hobby, it's like it's probably going right back into the hobby, which is the funny part.
Hmm.
um, but I think PSA for all of that. I think they're uh pretty much everything that they do is just for me, like what I prefer in terms of like their submission, their shipping back, their communication, the tiers. They have a lot of options. Um, and then it would go CGC. Just for the same thing. I like their submission process. It's pretty easy. I like the cases. They are really nice. I like the like clear. And I've always had, like a good experience with PSA and CGC. I mean, obviously we've had, I'm sure everyone, if you've graded a lot, runs into some sort of issue eventually. That I think that's just the nature. And then I think BGS, which I love for like that they will grade like the niche stuff, like the pencil boards and stuff,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
those are things that like I've asked PSA multiple times, and they're like, nah, we don't want to do it, and I'm like, I'm really happy that to have a company out there that actually will grade them, and be like, oh yeah, like we'll look up this info for you, and like, I could put in like 1998 Pokemon Ban Presto board. Like I don't know the details. And they'll get it and they'll fill it all out. Like, oh, this is actually the whatever release, Red and Charmander, and they'll kind of like fill that for you.
Wow.
So I do really like that about Beckett BGS. They're really good with that stuff. So and without them I couldn't grade half the cool things that I do. So it's cool to have all three. And I guess if I had to rank them, it just would be PSA, CGC, BGS, and that's basically just on how much I use them. Like I've graded cards with BGS before, but I think it's more so honestly the submission process because their site is a little weird and all over the place. Where
Hmm.
some days if I'm doing like a 200, 300 card submission, I just can't sit through it, and I'm just like, I'd rather just do it on PSA.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I've used PSA and CGC, but yeah, when I first started, I don't even think Beckett had online submissions yet, and so I still haven't even tried to do Beckett yet. I'd like
Yeah,
to, but it just not something I've got around to.
totally. And see, that's what I think, like, it becomes kind of daunting almost,
Absolutely.
like with games too. I remember I had to learn how to submit to VGA, like Video Game Authority, over because WADA was pretty easy. It was like pretty just like click this here, here, it's all good. VGA was like print out this form, write all these details in here. There's a bunch of things I had no idea what I was doing. I was like watching YouTube videos. I was reaching out to people like, what is this? What does this even mean? And even
Yeah.
after all that, I still messed it up. Luckily, like VGA reached out to me and they were like, "Did you mean this or whatever?" And I was like, "Yeah, like thank you." But it was a really like weird process, and I haven't graded with them since because it was just so hard and drawn out. And I was like, I don't know. Like some days I'm in that mindset, and other days I'm like, I can't do this today.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
yeah.
That's so
I
funny.
Yeah, so I get with the Beckett thing because I remember when it was print out, like print it out, write it out, and I was like, no.
Nope. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, so just kind of gonna wrap it up here towards the end. Just one last question for you.
Yeah,
Um, what do you think, what does Pokemon mean to you?
man, uh, it means so much. I mean, the bringing the imagination to life and like as a kid and then into an adult being able to still capture that, to have that spark there of just like the freedom of being a kid, being imaginative, having fun, like collecting things like it really is an escape when, like an adult life can be a little, intense and stuff, like stuff's a little real, you
Yeah.
have Pokemon, you can escape. You can watch Pokemon, you can collect Pokemon. You could go in your backyard and pretend you're Charmander if you want. Like you get to like
Yeah.
have that escape from like the normal problems and stuff where you're like, "Oh man, like I'm worried about this, I'm worried about that." And then you can jump into it and be like, "Man, but look at this card. Like look at this art." Or playing the game. I'm gonna run through Crystal, and like just like run through catch Suicune, like all these cool things. So it to me, it's in some ways, kind of like saved me, from like depression, anxiety, things like that. It's really helped me in being able to like get my mind off of those things, focus on stuff that I love, and also to be a part of like this community now, like you reaching out, which thank you so much. Like it's just super fun to talk to other people who love it and collect and just hang out and talk about these things when other things in life sometimes might be a lot or whatever. You can kind of have that escape, and I just love that. So it really is just so much to me.
Dude, yeah. That's awesome. And, thank you for your time. Thank you for coming on, and I couldn't
Yeah,
agree more. I'm so glad that you had something like that to help you through with anxiety and depression, because that's super real. And I appreciate you sharing that, and I'm glad. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on, dude. Um, Gym Leader Taylor on Instagram, on eBay. It's has been such a pleasure. Hope everyone has a great day. Thank you.
thank you so much, man.
Of course.